Hi, I'm Ken So from Athena Dynamics Singapore, part of BH Global Maritime Group. I think first and foremost, thank you so much, CyberSec, for giving us this opportunity to learn and share about maritime cyber safety. You may wonder why this title. Well, long and short of it is that 10 years ago, we started in this area, but really nobody was interested and nobody is thinking that it is important to have cybersecurity consideration in the maritime sector, in vessel, rigs, and ports. These 2 years, things has taken a turn because there's a global framework, a global compliant framework coming in, and we see that awareness is rising fast. So we have a very simple agenda today. We showcase a typical reality of cyber threat landscape today. What is the development now? And also what are the actionable insights, which is we recommend a framework coming in as in a starting point of how you can actually do cybersecurity protection to improve the cybersecurity posture of your ships and vessels. If you do a search in the past, it is not difficult to find cases that is related to maritime. So if you realize this particular news that we extracted from Reuters, it is in 2014, there was a rig that was shut down and tilted by a cyber attack because the dynamic positioning system was affected. And imagine that was in, 2014. And also some more well-known cases in this sector, they are also shipping companies' server gotten compromised. And what happened is then the bad actors actually know which particular containers and which crate in the vessel has actually important and valuable goods. So when they hijack, if they happen to hijack the ship, they know exactly where to go to for the most valuable goods, saving time and effort. So no more big machine gun and things like Captain Phillips in the movie. If we scan through the news, we are not short of ports and vessels having incidents, mostly in the IT system, not yet so much in the OT system. And even the International Maritime Organization, who has been championing all this awareness and framework, was compromised as well. So with all these incidents, what are the developments so far? What are the actions that has been taken in the maritime industry? Let's take a quick look at this. Well, there have been very respectable initiatives starting by, the early days by BIMCO, the committee. They have laid out safety guidelines for ships to comply. And of course, International Maritime Organization has been drafting compliance framework like MSC 428 resolution, which has been enforced and also complied and implemented by further classification bodies, which we'll cover later. And it's not actually, a lot of people may not be aware that even Tankers Association, OCIMF, has started such a compliant framework as early as 2018. It was now quite encouraging to know that the importance of cyber safety has been enforced by the International Association of Classification Society, IACS, which collectively stipulated the compliant framework, especially with some extracts down here to showcase under URE 26 and 27 framework, which stipulate that new builds has to comply to cyber safety before they can set sail and commission the ship. Right, now the very fundamental groundwork of compliant framework are in place. What hence are the actionable insights? Yes, recalling our journey about since 10 years back, when I talk about or trying to share about cybersecurity in the maritime sector, well, generally the awareness is low, so they may not know what I'm talking about, or maybe some feel skeptical, am I trying to sell something to them? And a lot of them feel that the topic is really not really relevant to them and they feel bored, as I can observe from their body language, until you say something called whiskey, right? Yes, but we never give up because we know that the cyber protection for ships and rigs are so important than onshore, because onshore you have all the expertise, right? When some incidents happen, but you are out in the see you're on your own. So we continue to share. We share in a lot of media, industry conferences, and together with education initiative by the government as well. So we never give up. The journey is long, we know, but every journey has to start with a small step, right? So fortunately, I think about like 4 years ago, the awareness start to raise and people are start curious about it. We start to understand, they start to understand such importance, and we started to get questions and inquiries from the industry. So today is not no longer awareness issue. It's that we have all these frameworks. So how do we start? I think that's a key thing. So in order to understand security, not just cyber security, we have to understand that compliances is different from operation security. Compliances, you can comply with a flying color as a baseline. But if you don't implement the operation side correctly with the actionable insight, so many companies actually comply to, the framework maybe with flying color, but tomorrow incidents happen. So we need to know the difference between the two. So the IACS framework is very, very practical. It stipulates and actually guide the vessel owners or shipyard service providers that framework of what to focus on and what are the important things to look for when they are protecting their OT system especially. So this is a framework, right? So we zoom into the framework of the E2627 and came out with what are the possible actionable insights. So for that, what we do is that when we look at E26 and E27, the control list, we painstakingly gone through every control and study the thinking and the requirement and match what are the possible actionable insights, the technologies or maybe process or people education that we can do to comply to each of the items. So we actually, if you look at the blue arrow, these are the areas that we can, we don't, it is a very thick compliant list, so if there's interest, we can always showcase the actual. So this gives you a brief idea of what we are doing to make actionable insights to comply to the framework of E2627. So now we look at the cybersecurity landscape. There are so many products. So which is right and which one we should adopt, to get ourselves really operationally secure for the ship. We always say that cybersecurity is never a product perspective. If the first step is wrong, it's already wrong if you go out and try to look for a product. Because cybersecurity is not about looking for a product or a solution. Cybersecurity is about, like when you go to a clinic, you don't go to the clinic to buy medicine straight away. You have to consult the specialist to know what is your weakness first. So cybersecurity, the first step is to know what is your weakness, right? What are the vulnerability in the ship IT and OT system before you can look at like the 80-20 way to protect better, to buy the right solution and to protect much better by spending 20% of effort to address 80% of the vulnerability, and for the rest of the 20%, then is that 20% that you need a lot of further attention to further calibrate how to fill the gaps of the rest of the thing. So if you look at the global NIST cybersecurity framework, I don't think we can look at this whole book and comply to everything. It will be impractical and costly. We have abstracted certain area, and we have sort of created a recommended framework for ships to actually follow through. So these are we call it the step-up protection roadmap, the actionable step-up protection roadmap. First, of course, we need to know what we own, then we know what we can protect, right? So asset discovery here refers to your IT and OT system. So we also understand, working with many entities, that if you look at the ships, they may be decades old. So as they transit through different groups of people that are managing a ship, they may, lose trace of what are actually on the ship. Some of the people may not have an asset list of the IT and OT system in the ship. So in order to do that, we have various ways to easily collate the assets, get the latest complete view of the assets on the ship. Then after that, we do vulnerability assessment to know, okay, what are the vulnerability of all these the assets on the ship. Then we typically then look at it and recommend more towards unconventional protection technology, because we don't believe in just applying the conventional mainstream protection technologies, as the bad actors has very good access to them. So we have actually sieve out unconventional ways to protect better. So we have extracted about 6 of them. If you look at this, we start with like asset discovery, right? We talk about asset discovery, and we also understand it is not easy for people to book an appointment to board the vessel and to do all the IT services. It is very, very painful, especially now that when pandemic hits and things happen, it is even more difficult to do the clearance. So we have something called automated asset discovery, where there's no boarding or ship requirement, there's no hardware needed. All we need to is to send a very small software component. You can email it to the captain, and when the captain open up in days or hours time, depending on how complex is the IT system or how well managed is the IT system, we are able to get the security posture plus the asset list of the ship remotely, so without going to the ship. So if you look at it, then we take the existing whatever network topology documentation of the ship plus what has been discovered, merge them into a new updated list. Then after which we also use asset management platform if need be. If it's not too complex, then a simple list may do. But if many ships are involved, we typically have asset management and compliance framework platform, so that we can actually help to manage better. And the other area is the sanitization of files that is coming into the vessel. Sometimes video tells a zillion words. So let me share with you this video where a compromise event has happened.
I have an email from my China supplier asking for advance payment. So it looks real. He even provide with the authentic invoice and the packing list. So without having a doubt on it, and I sent to the finance to make payment. Fortunately, the transfer was stopped by the bank because it's a bit unusual for a Chinese factory to have a bank in Canada. So that's where we discovered that it could be a phishing email. I believe they hacked into his account. That's the reason they use his email address and to write to us.
So in this particular case, what happened is that, all right, Patrick in this scenario is a real case. He has received an email which is so real, with the DO, with the invoice, and the bad actors even know that by when you must pay, like how much to the supplier. So in this case, we were very, very astonished why they have all this information, and we have done a scan of our network. We found nothing. We found something called the advanced persistent threat, which is very hard to detect. Usually infiltrated through an email, or you click or download any file, was in the China supplier's land. So when this happened, the bad actors can actually continue to monitor what is going on in the network, and from the network, then when they can come in at the right time, that's why they have all the information that this become like so real, the email. So in this case, right, Patrick even actually responded to test, because the bank has stopped the payment. We are fortunate enough. So then Patrick mentioned that, can you actually respond to the email? Guess what? The bad actor still has the guts to call, and when Patrick picked up the call, he's asking us to pay the amount to a new account in Canada for a China supplier. How could it be, right? So then we started to realize that it is important to protect correctly and looking at the cost, not the effect. So a lot of people then, when they have all this phishing email coming in, they buy a lot of anti-phishing mechanism, anti-phishing technology, which is pretty expensive. They are addressing the effect. The effect is a phishing email, not the cost. The cost is how to prevent all these advanced threat, which is very silent, come quietly into the network and then causing all these advanced phishing to happen. Right? So why this sort of thing continue to happen where so many companies already have antivirus, all the advanced technology? Because most of the technology are doing detection. But today, we can't even detect them. There are hundreds of thousands of new viruses coming out in the world, right? So if we even detect them today, we cannot detect them tomorrow. There will be new one anytime coming in. So we don't do traditional detection-centric approach anymore. We do something called sanitization. And the best way to explain is, let's say you look at this table. How do you know they are COVID-19 virus, right? I mean, the traditional way is to detect. So they will use a microscope to check. They found a virus, remove it. Found another one, remove it. And then they miss some, right? Because you only remove those that you found, right? So you found and remove, then you miss some. So our way is a sanitization way. So what we do is just, like spray the sanitizer and then you wipe all away without detection. So by doing that, we have this late movers advantage. We have been deploying this on shore, very, very much protecting important in infrastructure. So we move all these IT, OT protection ways into the shipping environment and create all this actionable insight. Of course, we know the domain of maritime, and we merge this constraint in the specific industry into what best can protect them together. So you can see, then we talk about we don't do detection, right? So it's called file sanitization. So in the ship, in a rig, sometimes we need to exchange data, extract data using thumb drive. And the thumb drive is so dangerous that it may infect the system in the ship, and then it will proliferate and spread all over, which can easily go out of control. So we have this sanitizer, which is small, no connection to the land. You can bring to the ship, whereby when there is an interaction by using thumb drive with the ship, you just connect it to the sanitizer. You will actually do the sanitization of the files in the thumb drive before you use it on the ship. So there's no detection-based technology here. It's using sanitizer to make sure that the file is clean before you use it in the ship. So the other way is something called data diode, which is not very common in the maritime sector yet, but we already have class certified data diode. Data diode, you can see as in something much, much stronger than firewall, because it allows unidirectional communication of data at hardware level. That means because any hacking requires interactivity, right? The dual direction, and this ensure that 100% there's no dual direction, and hacking is difficult. But at the same time, you can actually send file from maybe your OT system, your engine performance, your oil usage data out without using thumb drive, directly and safely to onshore through satellite, or maybe when you call at the port, you can send the files directly through Wi-Fi through this diode, and it's very, very safe. All right, so this actually diode has been certified by the class body. Right, so the other thing is called VAPT, which is called vulnerability assessment, and pen testing is like seeing the doctor, to check whether your ship is okay. And red teaming means to sort of soft hacking the ship to check whether your surface from internet, from SATCOM, whether it's safe. So we have even bought the ship, because ship environment may be sensitive, so I blurred it up. We have cyber hygiene survey. Right, and also we have automated VAPT through remote, without hardware. We can email an agent into the ship, and you will do this and check this, how vulnerable are the ship assets, IT and OT assets. And of course, we will also look at the leak data and the credential profiles, like passwords or ID or important people, maybe the captains of the ship, whether they are already put up for sale in the dark web. And you put all these things together with new updated network, like what I mentioned, after the asset discovery, you do the auto VAPT, you have the vulnerability, and then you have the leak data, right? So the leak data credential, then you merge them together and start to know what are your weaknesses of your ships, ports, and officers. So you start to create strategic insight, what to look out for, what products, what technology to use, and not just buy everything, to do focused protection of your setup. And all this is very important to get the relevant compliances as well. So the other area that the agent, which I mentioned, the software agent can do, is the constant monitoring of the cyber health status on board vessel, because these bad actors, they can come in anytime, right? Today is safe, tomorrow the scenario is different. So the constant monitoring is useful. I can give you one example, is that there were a case whereby the agent was there, somebody was trying to set up a VPN without getting the proper approval, and it was detected. And you know how dangerous is VPN if it's not properly installed. So the other area is training, right? I mean, the people side is so important. So we have training, structured training, which we also learn through painful experience that the offline way is important, because the seafarers are serving, are sailing all the time, and you want them to go into a classroom environment is very difficult. And only when the certification portion, small quiz and tests that is needed, then they will go online for such purposes. So the last one that we look at is forensic, right? When something happened on the ship, there's no IT expert on the ship, right? So where is a red button that someone can press? Don't worry about XDR, MDR, all this terminology in IT. So DFIR means digital forensic and incident response. Basically, it means when something happened, does the captain has some very quick way to respond, right? So we have this DFIR way to help the ship, is that we don't look at the computer log. Computer log is difficult because it's huge, and when it happens, when incidents happen, it's difficult to analyze. And hence we actually do, like, the professional body, research body, Gartner has mentioned, a specialized DSIR tool is important, not just antivirus and all. It doesn't help you when something happened, right? So we have this that can remotely help the ship when the ship is compromised by hackers, maybe through the SATCOM or through viruses. We can reduce the remote help, remote support on the ship for each incident, and string a typical work of weeks into just hours by this special way of remotely accessing the PC. We can remotely cut the PC, infected PC, away from the land. Only we can come in, and then we can extract the suspicious components from the ship, from the PC of the ship, and then we will do the necessary investigation and support before things get worse. Right. So is this detail of reduction of the framework? I will not go into detail because this is slightly more technical. If there is a keenness of this, let us know. We can always share more. Right. So you can see this step-out approach has been helping the ships for some time. And I can say that it's a long journey so far, but we continue to press on. We begin with a small step, and just like the famous quote by LKY, Lee Kuan Yew mentioned, it's never a bed of roses, but we continue to press on, and we believe that we will help a lot more when the awareness gets higher. All right, so a small introduction about ourselves. We are a homegrown transformation story in Singapore. We belong to the BH Global Group. Athena Dynamics was spin off from the group IT department 10 years ago when we discovered something that can protect enterprises better, and we get into a lot of deployment projects into government because maritime was not ready. So I was managing the IT system there, and because of the spin-off, I also take care of the spin-off company. So we always say that it's a digital transformation into a business transformation. And today we have a fair bit of projects in Singapore and the region, and also the world, in Europe as well. So I also chair the cybersecurity chapter in Singapore, SGTech. Cybersecurity chapter SGTech is a 40-over-year-old trade association with a very specialized network of people. So if you're keen, let me know. Straight away on this platform, you can be plugged into a network of specialists for sharing, and they have a lot of activities all the time, and you can get information, the most up-to-date information about cyber protection approaches and technologies. Right. Thank you for your attention. I hope all these contents has been useful and you can actually use them to help you protect back your ships, your ports, your rigs, and even your officers better. Thank you and look forward to seeing you in CyberSec Taipei 2025. Bye-bye.